Welcome back to the channel, everybody. So today we're going to be learning how to transform simple vegetables into a classic French soup that is called the Soupe Bonne Femme. Now the name Bonne Femme, of course, is going to look odd, so I cannot just start the recipe without telling you the explanation. So the name soup, you know, Bonne Femme, it's an old name from the old days that refers to a wife. So when you say ma bonne femme, back in the days you used to refer to my wife. So you could see that recipe called my wife's soup recipe. In the wider context of French cooking, what it really means when you see bonne femme, it means that it is a home style of dish. All right, so it's very, very simple, but there's always a little tweak in the French recipe, and what we're going to discover is how to make that soup looking very good with very little work. Let's go. Now, this particular soup is part of a category that is called the clear soups. Compared to their counterparts, the pureed soup, they are not mixed with a stick blender. So why is this important is that when you serve it, all the vegetable cuts that you will have done are going to be visible. Now, if you have things that are all kinds of size, big chunks, large chunks, rough cuts and everything, it's going to look pretty ugly. In French cooking, we're quite conscious with that kind of thing. So because of that, we're going to try to use this classic vegetable cut, without using too much fuss, to have something that is nice and elegant. So I'm going to go through the vegetables very quickly, see how to cut them. Now, if you're looking at some practice with your knife skill, this is great because it's not complicated and it's quite useful anytime you make that soup. So the beans, they're not very good looking and from the fish, been staying here for a few days. So I'm, of course, rinse them and clean them under running water. We're just cutting the ugly bits on the side here. Do the same on here. And we need small cuts because it's a soup that cooks 30 minutes maximum. But instead of just cutting your beans like this in little pieces, we try to go on an angle this time. Okay, so you make some of these little efforts, okay, and I'm just showing you 3 beans here, but we're just going to try to get that little bit more interesting. So it's home style, but you see that little diamond shape and the little oblique is a bit better. So all the beans like that. Next, underline the leeks. So leeks are always the same. We only use the yellow part. You remove the outer leaf, okay, and then you do a cross cut on the leek. So when it's whole like this, you got one way like this, you turn another way, and you got this kind of shape. Like I like this little, it's like pages of a book. And you rinse this under cold water like this to make sure there's no dirt anyway, because they're known to have dirt between the leaves. And when it's here, basically nothing special for the leeks when they're like this, thin slices. So nothing special, but you go around, okay, something like that is fine. So all the leeks cut like that. And now the carrots. Carrots and potatoes can be cut into something that's called the paysanne cut. It means the farmer's cut. Okay, so when you get your carrot up, you're going to trim one end, you're going to trim the other here, and then you can cut your carrot, let's say in 2 pieces. It's very small carrots, but typically the paysanne cut, you take one thing like this, okay, we're going to do gently 1/2 like that, then you cut in half again, okay, then you turn, you get these little 2 batons, and you don't care, from here, same thing, thin, and you're going to have these little kind of fan shapes that we have. So they're more fun, when you're going to have this on your plate than a rather rough chop. So all the carrots like that. Now the potatoes, they have to be cut in small cubes. You can do it with the knife if you have only a few potatoes, but if you want to make that soup for more people, it can get a little bit tedious because you need to cut the end here, the sides, make it rectangular, cut slices, then transform the slice into matchstick and then the matchstick into cubes, which is a bit long-winded. So there's one little trick that I'm using here. Let me show you. Ta-da! Let me present you my humble fry cutter. You see these little squares in here? That is the shape that we want. And guess what? It is all I need to make my little cube. So what I'm doing, I've got my little fry cutter in here. I'm planting my potato on here, something like that. I'm taking my thing on here. It's a manual thing. And then up, and then whoop, I'm done. Are you making fries? Is that it? Yes, I am. You can use this for fries, but the most important, I've skipped all of the steps and I already have my little batons that are perfectly squared. And because it's home cooking, we do a simple bonne femme style, I'm just going to go with my knife and I'm going to go chopping away and I'm going to have my little cubes. Okay, this is my little trick to accelerate the process. Look at these little neat little things, done. All done. Would you look at this mise en place? And this is why the vegetable cuts in French cooking are important. In a case such as this, that the ingredients has to be shown on the plate, then you need to pay attention to their cuts. There's nothing complicated, but look at this. We've got a little oblique on here, we've got a thinly sliced leek on here, we've got little cubes of potatoes, we've got the fan-shaped carrots, and the rest is just the whole beans. Because it's the Bonne Femme appellation, it's a home-style appellation, I also took some liberty to add something else. Wine. Yes, a little bit of white wine in there to add some flavors. I'm going to be using a mix of stock and water. If you want, you can use only water. If you don't have this kind of liquid stock, you can also use a stock cube with the water, but make sure the stock cube is not full of salt because sometimes there's way too much salt added. For the rest, really, we're going to use a small stock pot or a large saucepan, some butter, and we're good to go. So let's go on the stove. Let's begin. We start with the butter, and let me tell you that really once you've cut the vegetables, you're pretty much done. Huh? The rest is extremely straightforward. So we're going to melt the butter first. Looking good, we've got the butter, and I'm going to start here first with the leeks and the carrots. Grab the carrots on here. And it's always the action of sweating the vegetables. Huh? So you want a medium heat and a good 2 or 3 minutes to start release the natural water contained in the vegetables and make them a little bit translucent, or at least not the carrots, but the leeks. Very nice, so you can see the volume has gone down, and now you're going to really rinse and drain the potatoes. And now we're going to add all the potato cubes. Huh? So you don't use the water from the potatoes, huh? You drain the water out, and then you mix that in. After 1 minute, we're ready to moisten the mixture. So one thing to keep in mind is that the original recipe is made with water, but really when you only have vegetables, there's no secret. The taste you're gonna get in here is not gonna fall from the sky, okay? So having a little broth like this really enhances the flavor for sure. If you want, you can use only water, but I'm gonna use a mix of both. Okay, so typically with about 1 liter or 4 cups, you're done. But of course, some wine. With just a dash. And then some aromatics. And now we're gonna add some thyme. So if you put 2 or 3 branches, up 2 branches is enough. A bit of bay leaf in here. And I'm going to leave this to simmer first for 10 minutes before adding the green beans and the other beans in. Okay? So timer on, and we go for 10 minutes. And while the soup is cooking, it is the perfect time to talk about our upcoming course entitled Soupe du Jour, From Broth to Consommé. It is a brand new adventure. We're going to be discovering the world of soup as per Auguste Escoffier, going through all the categories, starting here with the classic potage de légumes, moving on to the pureed soup, then the crème, then the velouté, and finally the consommé. In each chapter, we're discovering recipes that haven't been done for a very long time, different flavor. We're using fish, we're using meat, we're using combination of vegetable. It's an absolute unique course to come. If you want to have a teaser, you can join our Patreon page that will give you access to our online community where we've posted the first chapter of the course that has 11 lessons when you're going to learn plenty of interesting stuff. Link in the video description, and look forward for the announcement later on. Back to the soup. You see, perfect timing, just the time to announce that little course there, and we're adding the other beans in here. And we're going to mix everything together. And now we're going to keep on cooking. And for it could be a good 20 minutes. So really simmer, slow cooking. We want this flavor to be released. Otherwise, it's not going to have much taste. And trust me, if you want to have more taste, really use broth only, even no water. Because I've tried this before with simple water. It's a bit thin. Now, before you put your timer on, and I forgot to say for these last 20 minutes, lid on. Okay, let's go. The time is up. I just reduced my heat to a simmer, and this is the result we have. Look at this vegetable cuts, very humble. And remember, it's a very humble soup. And from here, we're gonna add the final touches in the form of the seasoning. The seasoning, you can add it before, but typically with soup it's after. So you're gonna have a bit of salt, you're gonna have a bit of pepper, and there is also an option for that soup to have cream into it. And I think it is really in the last moment, these final touches, that the soup can go in different directions. So if you want, you can have it like this. Okay, this is the clear version, as you can see here. You can serve it as is with some garnish, or you can have it with cream. So instead of put cream everywhere, let me show you a second option. So that's the normal version. Let me show you the cream version. If you want something more indulgent, a bit Bocuse style, you're gonna take a few spoons of cream in here. I'm gonna go easy. I like cream, so this is one of my And you basically transform this into a cream soup. We're gonna bring this to a simmer again, adjust the seasoning, and that's gonna be the creamy version. So now let's serve and have a taste. Now, if there is one thing I've learned from Escoffier, following in his steps on all this world of soup making, is that the final touches and the garnish goes a very long way. So first off, in your soup, when you have cream, you need butter, which I've added a teaspoon of butter in my soup, and it needs to be really, really hot. So serving first, you've got your Soupe Bonne Femme with cream, a little bit of butter, and it's served absolutely hot. That's the first thing. Okay, so we've got the base. Let's have a look. Not bad, nice coloring, appetizing. What if we add some freshness into it? A bit of parsley from the garden, freshly picked, and that's gonna add a boost of flavor. Already very nice. I like it. If you're not vegetarian, what about adding some pieces of smoked bacon? Even better nice, shall I say. Look at that. Bacon, cream, parsley, and the final touch, of course, because we're French, we could not go without with a few croutons in my soup. Now that is what I'm talking about. And now your soup is ready. All right, so you see the Soupe Bonne Femme is really a base, a simple, clear soup that you can eat on its own with nothing on it. You can add cream and you can add all kinds of elements. But if you kind of look at the comparison from the basic one with just the broth to this kind of little interesting soup here, it's a far departure. So now I can finally enjoy that beautiful. You can add some pepper if you want. Sorry for the vegetarian out there. So you got these fresh vegetables, I got a piece of meat, I've got some bread and the parsley. It's really nice. And you know, cream and butter for soup. Escoffier is making it all the time. The majority of his soups you finish with minimum butter and otherwise cream and butter. And you kind of understand why, because you know, look at that. I mean, that's just a good soup. I mean, it's nourishing, it's creamy, it's crunchy, but I think the bacon is nice. You get kind of saltiness into it, a bit of meatiness, but maybe not for everybody, but love it. What a simple but beautiful soup. But that is the end of the video, guys. If you watch it till the end, thank you very much. And if you enjoy the video, the content, or if you heard about the Soupe Bonne Femme, let me know in the comment section. Next time, I think I'm gonna do something for a side dish, also using leeks, because I think leeks are really some kind of an underrated vegetable, and I've got something really, really nice that you can serve as a side, specifically with fish, or more precisely, salmon. So if you want to join me next time, we're going to discover that little and simple recipe to add some flair to your salad.